Ooh. Hey, Craig, will you tell me something?
Oh, I'll tell you something. Do you want
Tell
me to
me.
tell you something?
Yes, who do we have?
We've got the $1 billion, that's billion with a B, sales guru and MentorBox CEO, partner to Ty Lopez, Dr. Alex, and he's unleashing 2 secret formulas. Guess what?
What?
He's also a rocket scientist.
I'm going to drink that in. Let's do it.
Do it.
Welcome to the Insurance Dudes, a podcast for insurance agency owners, helping us to think of different ways to optimize our business and our lives.
Dr. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's an honor.
Cool.
Super.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for having me.
So, can you tell us a little bit about, for somebody who doesn't know who you are and they've been living under a rock or something, can you just kind of give like a little background?
Sure. I am a serial entrepreneur. It's just like, I've lived basically 2 lives. The first half of my life, it was all about science. So I grew up wanting to be a scientist. I am also an immigrant. So I immigrated to US when I was 20 years old. Went to grad school, got my master's, PhD in engineering, became a scientist for NASA. I had no plan, man, to become an entrepreneur. I just, it wasn't even growing up. It wasn't even in my vocabulary to do business. Believe it or not, it's like very interesting. I've lived 2 separate, distinct lives.
That is 2 different like mindsets, right?
Right.
Like,
So structured, like that scientific, and follow this process, and then entrepreneur, it's just
exactly. But here's the thing. The funny thing is, I actually talk about this in my lectures and stuff. The scientific process actually helps you in business. So if you're able to look at your business as a science experiment and just apply scientific method, you will win, because scientific method is better than gut feeling. You know what I mean? It's just a better guide. And that helped. So I I took that with me and used it in the business world. I transitioned to business about 12 years ago. I quit my job at NASA. I really liked science, and I really liked working for NASA. I worked on space missions, several space missions, in fact. And I switched into entrepreneurship, and I started in consumer internet brands. And the first company that I started was called Zoosk, which took me a bit to sell, about 10 years I worked on that, but I recently sold it for $258 million. So kind of
that's a little bit.
Yeah. We meant it. It was a good exit for everybody. Obviously, my co-founder and I made a lot of money, and our investors were very happy. But what really made me happy was we minted a few millionaires out of our employees as well. So
that's awesome.
People who joined us early believed in the mission. I wish I could deliver the same results to them in like 5 years instead of 10 years, but it's better late than never. So
that's awesome.
Some people got really good exits. People that I like, always early employees in a startup, they always have a special place in your heart. They joined the mission early, and they help shape it. And so that was my first company. About 3 years ago, in fact, I stepped down from running the business, and I brought in a new CEO, Chief Revenue Officer of Expedia, which did a fantastic job of running that company. And I started building more consumer brands with Ty. And I stepped into the crazy world of social media as part of being partners with Ty. Before that, I never had my face on any ads, even though I've spent I spent probably over $500 million in advertising. It was never my face on the ads. It was never on there. But with Ty, we basically started social media marketing on consumer brands. The first company is MentorBox that we did together was called MentorBox. Then we launched Knowledge Society. Then we launched Farmer's Box. If you follow our social media, we have a lot of delicious food products that we have. And, the first company, MentorBox, was kind of interesting because I was a proven entrepreneur at that point. And I don't know if I'm going on and on. Do you want me to continue talking about it? Yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
I was kind of like a, proven entrepreneur, and I had a track record. And I walked into the book industry, and I'm like, oh my God, these guys are fossils. And it's funny because, the first 3 months, people don't realize I could not onboard any publisher or any books for first 3 months. So we were doing our videos, book videos, me and Ty ourselves, basically, because we couldn't onboard. I was calling publishers. I couldn't reach anybody. I had a big book order. There are 4 major bulk book distributors. I called all 4 of them. 3 of them didn't even return my call. And one of them called back and was like, who are you and how are you selling books? I mean, this is like,
Wow.
Do you have stores or what? How does that work? And I was like, no, hello, my name's Alex Mehr, and I'm an internet marketer. So, so that's kind of how it evolved. And then after 3 months, we had the first author, like we got the first big name author, and it just racked up names after names after names. And now the table has completely turned. So we have now deals with top book publishers, and everybody knows about us.
Now they're coming to you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's basically what happens now. I mean, we don't even solicit at all. Basically, we have 5 major book publishers, before they release a new book, they send a copy to us for us to consider including it in our program. We are basically become part of their promotion machines because we are the largest, basically, book marketing tool available out there. I give you guys something that really blew my mind when I entered the book industry. So think the book, biggest book publishers in the world. You would think they have a huge database of emails of their previous customers, like somehow that they can promote new books to them.
Right.
No. Blows my mind. So they have a new book.
They're writing letters.
Yeah, they have a new book. They're like, okay, their promotion plan is like, oh, I'm gonna put them on whatever like show or whatever TV show or radio show, and I'm like, or send them into book signing into stores, which at best introduces your book like to 20 people. And I'm like, you don't have a fucking, excuse my language, you don't have a big email list where you can promote it's just mind-blowing. So, yeah, it was one of those things that I realized quickly. You know how it is. It's like an, old industry, and it's completely outdated at this point. But, I mean, they're making progress. Yeah. Sorry,
insurance
I went on and on. Yeah.
No. I was just saying, to your point, like insurance is kind of the same way. It's kind of a dinosaur. There's some things about insurance that you would be blown away that they're still doing. Fax machines, and it's just like, what are we doing here? It's crazy.
I tell you guys an interesting story from my NASA days. I can't remember which spacecraft it was. I believe it was actually a space shuttle. The astronauts were complaining that the cockpit smells like, excuse my language, horse shit. Okay, so they were, for a while they were trying to figure out why, right? And it turned out that they took the specs for the seat cover of the spacecraft from old B-52 bombers. So they kind of, the same manufacturer made this. Back in the day, those B-52 bombers, the seat was made of leather. In order for moth and insects to not eat into the leather, back in the days, World War II, they used to dip this thing in horse shit, basically, to make sure it's not, because kind of like an insect repellent, right? And and Space Shuttle C's is made of synthetic materials that no moth or insect will ever be. And there's also no moth in the space, in case you didn't know.
Right.
But the process was in place since World War II. So the manufacturer would have still dipped this thing in horse shit before sending it to manufacturer to actually put it in the spacecraft. It's like happens, man, happens.
That is so funny. So they weren't just overreacting. They were actually like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That is what you're smelling.
It is horse shit.
Yeah, it tells you about, how, things like, it's interesting. Organizations have memories. And they kind of, things stay in there the way, like, they don't change. So even if it has no relevance to today's world, they would still be dipping their seeds in horse shit before sending them to space.
That is rough.
That is crazy. That's got to be like the advantage of a startup, right? Is that if there's no
100%.
rule, we're not in this box, we're outside the box.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Are you a rocket scientist?
I mean, there's no title as rocket scientist, but I'm a space mission analysis and design certified scientist. I actually worked on space missions. So
has anyone asked you, what do you think you are, a rocket scientist? Has anyone asked you that?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I get that all the time.
And you're like, I am.
You can say,
by the way,
yeah,
I actually am a rocket scientist.
I actually am, kind of, yes. Even though at NASA, nobody calls themselves rocket science. They call themselves like propulsion systems engineer or whatever. Avionics. So it's like more, rocket scientist sounds like too generic of a title, but yes, technically.
It's like it's like a hick thing, right? Like if you say that, you're like, okay, obviously.
They don't know anything about NASA.
Yeah. You're obviously not a rocket scientist.
I tell you guys another funny story if you want to hear a funny story. So, okay. So I was, I went to Washington, D.C. with a good friend of mine, co-worker at NASA. This is many years ago. And he's a nice guy, PhD in engineering, deep into whatever robotics, and autonomous robotics, space autonomous robotics. Basically, he built autonomous robots for space missions. Very great guy. And we were at a bar in Washington, D.C., and we were outside. I never forget. There were like two girls that walked to us, and one of them started talking to me, or one of them started talking to him, and then I was from the corner of my eyes. I was kind of like monitoring the conversation. So the girl asked him. His name is Adrian, and asked Adrian, "So what do you do, right?" And Adrian started talking, I worked on whatever multiple autonomous robots so that they land, whatever this happens. And I saw the girl, there was a glaze on the girl's eyes. Like it was just like glazed over, completely don't know what he's talking about. And I turned and I said, he's a rocket scientist. And the girl literally, her face like opened up. And she's like, that's so cool. And Adrian turned back to me. It's like, or you can say it like that. That's right. That's right. And from that point on, that's how he would introduce himself. And it helped him a lot in his dating life. So,
keep it simple, right?
Just what are you doing, man? Explaining exactly what you're doing. Like,
don't get into the weeds. She doesn't want to hear that.
No sense.
Cool. How did you get involved with Ty Lopez?
Ty and I have been friends for a long time, for about 10 years now, probably over 10 years now. Ty, a lot of people don't know, but before he was big on social media and he's now in education space. Before that, he had a portfolio of online dating products. They were smaller, online dating products. And I had 10 years ago, I had like the #1 mobile dating app. So I kind of pioneered mobile dating. So we met at a mobile, at an online dating conference, not on an online dating website.
You have to be clear about that.
Yeah.
In an online dating conference, and we were on a panel, and and there were 5 of us. It was a very boring panel, but Ty and I, I was like, oh, everybody's boring. But there was this dude who was quoting books, like a very specifically, very knowledgeable, very interesting guy, very dynamic. And that was Ty. And I'm like, who is this guy? So after the panel, we started talking. And I remember my first interaction with him was, I mentioned something in a book, The Third Chimpanzee by Jared Diamond. And I had never seen anybody else who had read the book. He had read it. So we started talking about that's instant connection. So we became friends after that. That's kind of how we met.
That's cool. And then how did you guys, is that how it started with MentorBox? So I was running Zoosk. So it took 7 years. We were friends. He was kind of like, I would come to LA all the time. Him and I kept brainstorming on different business aspects, but I was running my own business. He was doing his own thing. And it wasn't until after I started building other businesses after Zoosk that Ty and I thought about actually becoming business partners. And the story of MentorBox is a little interesting because I was looking into box business models, Birchbox, Blue Apron, all these box models. And I was fascinated. So I said, well, I'm going to try 100 different box ideas. And to see I actually literally, my Shopify was 100boxes.myshopify.com. So I was like, I'm going to use this Shopify. I'm going to launch 100 different box ideas, see which one works. And then I'm going to take it. It's scientific experiments, right? You have to fail 100 times. To see which one works. And the first one I did was actually for healthy, like for vitamins and herbal supplements, right? And it was okay, but it wasn't that great. And then Ty and I were talking, and Ty said, hey, let's do it around books. And then we brainstormed. It kind of evolved a little bit over time. And then we said, okay, let's do MentorBox, basically. So kind of like went back and forth, and we came up with the idea, and I launched it, and it took off. So that the rest is history. That's cool. I love that concept. What a cool concept. It's like, how did no one else think of that? It's one of those ideas that's like, it's a good idea if once you hear it, you think, gosh, why didn't somebody else think of that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I bet you a lot of people thought of it. It's just nobody executed it because it's not very obvious. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Yeah.
It would be hard to see the business model. Yeah, somebody probably got brought up without like thought of the business model.
Exactly. So
how did that execution look like? Like what did you guys do? How did you?
So we have a formula. We now at this point, Ty and I have a formula. It is our formula. It is basically it's 7 P's, but we call it the simple version of it is 4 P's: product, price, promotions, placement. Okay, so product is product concept. All right. Price is okay. Now, a concept can be great, but it has to be priced at a price that people buy. So you need to figure out price. Third is promotion. How am I going to tell people this product at this price exists? All right. And fourth is placement. Now that I've promoted it, people hopefully have bought it. Now, how do I place it? Meaning, how do I get it to the hand of customers, right? So that's kind of like our formula, and we keep doing it. So basically what we do is that we say, okay, so product concept is initial product concept of MentorBox that we pivoted from was books in a box, right? You're like, okay, so that's the concept. at what price would people buy this? So we kind of create a landing page. We explain the product concept. Then we start testing prices. We send traffic to it using advertisement or social media, social media or what have you. We start figuring out prices, how much people are willing to pay. Can we make this business model work, right? Once we have the pricing down, then we say, okay, now, what is the best way to get, we have 100 customers. How can we get to 10,000 customers? What is the promotion mechanism for it? Is it Facebook ads? Is it YouTube? Is it viral videos? Do I need to go on podcasts and talk about my product? So that's kind of promotion aspect of it. And the last part of it is fulfillment and how do I place it? So that placement changed. So initially it was books sent and our learning materials, booklets and all that, and videos were also on a flash drive delivered to you via mail. We changed that. The placement became electronic. So all of a sudden, everything became a lot better. So that's kind of and then you go back and you just iterate. You're like, okay, does the product concept need some modification? Then can I price it differently at the new version of the product concept? So just keep looping. Does that make sense? So yeah, that's kind of the formula that we use.
So tell me, how did you go from being a rocket scientist, right? How did you go from doing that to doing this at such a high level? We're talking high level stuff here. We're not talking your average, hey, e-commerce business, right?
Right.
What was that like? What was that transition like?
I was a little scared, to be honest. Ty has this personality test. I don't know if you guys have taken it. We're going to turn that into a business at some point. But one of the dimensions he measures is actually anxiety. I'm very low anxiety. So in general, I'm not very fearful at all. But this was a hard transition for me. And I tell you why. Because as an academic, as a research scientist, you become obsolete really quick if you do not continuously publish academic papers. So I was literally letting go of the first half of my life to venture into unproven territory. So does that make sense? It wasn't like I had nothing going on and I was becoming an entrepreneur. I was letting go of a lot of stuff. In fact, for about a year or so, I tried to straddle. I tried to continue publishing academic papers with my former research partners while I was launching Zoosk. So for about a year or so, I tried to hold on. In case this doesn't work, I can go back. That's how, it was very hard for me. But at some point, I had to let go. It's there are points in life where you have to go down the alley, even though there's no way to come back. So you got to make those calls. It's just, you have to. Yeah.
So why was the right call?
Well, so I'm actually not 100% sure it was the right call. I made a lot more money as an entrepreneur than I would never have paid as a. So that part of it is obviously different. But fulfillment doesn't necessarily come from money, as you probably know. So in a way, sometimes I look back, and I have friends who are scientists and actually hardcore scientists, and they don't consider me like a scientist anymore. They're like, they don't respect me anymore. But so in a way, I want to say I tell you what I like about entrepreneurship. How about that? What I like about entrepreneurship is that you have full ability to plot your own path. Nothing else gives you that. Nothing else. I mean, you can be anything. I can't really think of anything else. You can be, as a scientist, you're kind of inside a research institute, right? So your direction is dictated by the initiatives of the institute or where the grant money is available at or what have you. So you're kind of within a construct. Obviously, as an employee, you're also within a construct. You are part of a bigger company. There's nothing wrong with it. But the level of freedom that you get as an entrepreneur to determine your own path and destiny is just I don't know how else I can get that. So that's what I like about entrepreneurship.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And the successes or the failures ultimately fall on your shoulders, right? We're entrepreneurs at a much smaller scale, being agency owners, and then we have some side businesses, but it's the same thing. If shit's falling apart, you know, if you're not looking in the mirror and saying, okay, what do I need to change to bring the reins back in, then you know, maybe you shouldn't be an entrepreneur, because you have to accept that responsibility.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's I always say entrepreneurship is not for everybody. I don't think it is for everybody. And also, it is not the only way to add value in this world. It's not like some people have this notion that entrepreneurship is somehow a superior, like even morally superior way of living your life. I'm like, not really. You know, there are a lot of people that contribute to the society without being entrepreneurs. I mean, firefighters, the doctor in the ER, they save lives, right? So, and it's a great path to go. All I'm saying is, I say two things about entrepreneurship. One, everybody should try it. It's not for everybody, but everybody should try it at least once. And the reason for that is you don't know if you like it until you've tried it. It's just, you know, so you won't know. Do you want to live your life not knowing if you would have made a great entrepreneur or not, you know? So that's the first thing. The second thing is the level of autonomy, freedom. Like I said, controlling your own destiny. It's just, you can't get it any other way, at least to the best of my knowledge. Maybe you can be, maybe another way to have full freedom is to be dictator of a small country or something.
Is that next for you?
That would be another way. I don't recommend it. But yeah.
What are you excited about these days? So you've had so many successes in your past. What gets you excited? Because I mean, wow, the stuff that you've accomplished is so great.
You know what gets me the most really excited is sometimes when we launch a new product and I get messages from people. Like, I'll give you an example. I mean, it sounds silly, but it is actually what gets me excited. We just launched our beef sticks, grass-fed beef sticks. I launched on my social media, and I just did one post for it, and it's selling. I mean, on a daily basis, is selling, and I'm already getting DMs from people that sell. They say, "Hey, like, it's just, you know, it's a pure, no preservatives beef stick, right? It's a good protein." A lot of people DM me and say, "Oh, I like the product. I'm addicted to your product. I really enjoy eating it." It's silly, but that kind of makes me happy. Doesn't make sense? It's like,
it's your thing. You came out with it. And people are like, they like what you're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like you brought it to this world, right? It's just just gave birth to a baby.
You're the artist.
Yeah, it's like it's hard to explain. Again, that's a feeling you cannot easily get in any other career, to the best of my knowledge. It's just hard to get it. I mean, maybe engineers of iPhone really also like the fact that people, you know, enjoy iPhones, but it's hard to say I built iPhone because, like, you know, 100,000 people worked on iPhone. So it's like,
And then ultimately, Steve would take responsibility, you know, accept the responsibility for it. So
exactly.
Cool.
So what about marketing? Like, tell me a little bit about what you do for your marketing, just in general, how you approach it, I guess.
Yeah. So we have a specific formula when it comes to marketing. At the very top level, it is basically, I mean, we have, if you look at our marketing materials, it follows a simple formula: demonstrate, inspire, motivate, and educate. So it's like DIME is kind of like our acronym for it. So we try to show products. It's not like, if you look at our marketing, it's different than traditional marketing in the sense that traditional marketing, they show you an airbrushed photo of the product, and it's kind of, that it's not real.
Yeah.
Like you see that photo of McDonald's Big Mac on a poster, it's like looks all fluffy and nice, and the actual thing is just like a gooey, smushy thing.
That's so true.
So what we try to do is actually walk people through the product in an unbrushed way. So it lends itself very well to some formats, like video advertisement works great. But it won't be that good for a billboard, for example. But the good news is social media video advertisement is now way bigger than billboard, So demonstrate is that. Inspire is like, we don't sell features and benefits. We sell what the product can do for you. Does that make sense? It's like healthier. Yeah, it's not feature. It's a. You guys understand the distinction. It is a lot of entrepreneurs are confused by that. They try to talk so much about features and benefits of their product that they miss the whole point, that people want to be inspired and motivated. That's the next item. So like inspired and motivated. So demonstrate. Then tell a story that inspires them, motivates them, gives them a reason beyond the features and benefits of the product to purchase your product, right? And then the E is educate. It's very important. Basically, one way, if you want to sell something effectively, you need to build authority. Like people have to believe that you are an authority in that field. Anything you want to sell, if you want to sell books, if you want to do whatever, like food products, you need, like Bulletproof has done a great job of that, right? So it's like he's built authority, and people it's an authority and a brand that sells products at the same time. Does that make sense? And the authority part, the easiest way to get it is education. So if you're educating people about something, people trust you. And then it's a lot easier to sell that. Actually, what you guys are doing here is actually really good. So basically, you're bringing people and you're educating people about entrepreneurship. And this way, people kind of start trusting you and trusting your brand. You're building a brand this way. And that actually goes a long way for people to actually buy products from you. Does that make sense? So demonstrate, inspire, motivate, educate. And that's kind of like our formula. And we do it in an unfiltered way, authentic. We try to sell things that we are really educate people on things that we are not an expert in, show airbrush photos of products. In fact, we have this rule that we never use stock photos on any of our websites ever. So like, it's just nothing is airbrushed. Everything is like raw and authentic. Does that make sense? So yeah, that's
real.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, because the days of people seeing a nice airbrush photo of something on a billboard and then going and buying it is kind of over.
So, it almost seems like you're being sold, like it's fake, like it's
exactly.
As soon as they can smell the sales aspect of it, they're gone. Like that's today's consumer, totally different, right? It's a sales guy. Forget it. I'm done. Shut down. Walls up, right? Because they're getting hit by so many different people. And that's also interesting in that, like some of the marketing, right? The way that we market on YouTube, where it's your best and most responsive advertising campaigns on YouTube are going to be where you have your phone and you put it in front of you versus some high production, Coppola version of presenting your product.
Yeah. And it has happened industry. If you look at industry by industry, they're being disrupted by more authentic marketing compared to traditional. Give you an example. I think one of the latest industries that have been disrupted using this marketing model is really high-end fashion. Think like high-end fashion, like even 10 years ago, it was all like, high-end fashion shows. It was like billboards, magazine photos of whatever high-end. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And
Airbrushed.
nowadays, it is Fashion Nova. So you have influencers on Instagram wearing a product and just doing it in their own way that is not airbrushed, that is not even controlled by the parent company, like, you know, the Bang Energy or Fashion Nova. You look at their ads, yes, they sponsor, but then the influencer does their own sometimes silly thing, putting the product on the Instagram, but it's authentic. It's silly, but it's authentic. You know what I mean? So, and that sells way better. Fashion Nova is a multi-billion-dollar brand now. It's actually the highest. Last year was the highest. Can you believe this? Fashion Nova last year was the highest searched fashion brand on Google. Like, came out of nowhere. And it's just through Instagram marketing and having all these influencers expressing themselves in an unfiltered way using the product. It's like I'm telling you, the days of putting a glossy ad in a magazine or whatever, it's just like it's over. It's all about authentic, raw marketing. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, these people, if there's 1 million people following so-and-so, right, whoever, some name, and she's drinking Red Bull, you know, you have 1 million people that are like, wow, I love her, and she's drinking this, I'm in, right?
Yeah. I agree with you, but I tell you, it's actually one factor even more than that. So if you get the same number of eyeballs, all right, of some airbrush photo of somebody drinking like a Red Bull on a billboard or a magazine or something, and you get the same number of views on their Instagram little story or people watching the billboard, I promise you, people do not see the billboards. Like, people do not see these things. It's just the brain filters everything that is airbrushed and like fake.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, it's like the brain filters it. So I'm saying even the same number of eyeballs is more effective for that person to actually shoot an Instagram story, even though there's not a director. They're like doing it in their bedroom, you know. The lighting is not perfect, but actually that's what makes it effective. That's, I guess, the point I'm making. Does that make sense?
So real. Yeah. Well, it's so real, right? People connect with authenticity.
Exactly. Authentic, raw. I think the key word here.
Yeah. No one wants to be duped anymore.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Craig?
Well, I was thinking about something you said, Alex, near the beginning. When you first connected with Ty, and he said you need to put yourself on camera, and you didn't have that experience. Being a scientist often can be a little bit introverted. So how was that? Like, how was that transition for you from going to, you know, the rocket scientist to putting yourself on camera?
It was very difficult. And, but I tell you this, I have this theory that there's a reason why faces on camera work better than logos. Babies, when they're born, just like the moment they come to this world, they actually do not identify a lot of objects. Like, they don't understand things, but they know faces, human faces. And not only that, they can actually read facial expressions very early on. So we as humans, we are programmed to identify other humans' faces and expressions a lot faster than objects. What is an image of a product? What is a logo? It is an object. It's not a human, right? It's a lot easier for humans to pay attention to and with repetition become familiar with another face than with a logo or with a product image or what have you. Does that make sense? So that's why it is a lot more effective in marketing to actually put a human face on a product. And I give you an example. One of my board members at Zoosk was a board member on Priceline. Okay, and he told me Priceline was struggling, was a kind of being crushed by Expedia and all these guys. And you know how Priceline is now a massive, huge company. You know what changed the game for them? William Shatner.
Oh, I was Yeah.
So they put so it was, a lot of these travel websites, they have, show like their commercials, like, oh, you click on this and click on that. And it's just like, they have these animations of planes flying. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had William Shatner on there. And William Shatner is a familiar face, already trust is made. He destroyed, like basically Priceline became like a massive company because of him. So
Wow.
that's what I tell people. Look, it is not a theoretical thing. It's actually not about your ego. Some people want to be on camera because they want to be on camera. I'm like, great. but it's not, you shouldn't be on camera because you want to be on camera. I mean, if you want to be on camera too, that helps too. But it's the main reason is because it is good for your business. When you can get in front of camera and explain your product. I can give you another example. Very interesting. Can I give you a quick example?
Oh yeah.
So when I was running Zoosk, Germans, they have really tight privacy laws and consumer advocacy groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was this independent consumer advocacy group in Germany. They had given us a very low ranking of F or something, like for privacy laws or whatever. They had given us very low ranking. I was on a press tour in Germany, and I said, can I meet with them, right? Can I just see why they hate us? I mean, what have I done wrong? And then they set up a meeting, and there's, it was me and my VP of public relations in the lobby of a hotel, and two German women show up, like very, like they didn't smile at all. They were kind of walking as if they were mad at me or something. And I never forget, we sat in the lobby of the hotel, and they had like this huge binder, and they pulled it out, and it was like our terms of service. As an American company, you have to have a long terms of service. You cover your ass against, because in this country you get sued all the time. So it's like, basically we had a huge terms of service privacy policy, and she was like, had it all circled out, and she was like, why do you have this why do you have this? Why do you have, like, it's just, 5 minutes of grilling me. And I was just answering her, like, we do this because in the US, you have to do this and that and that. Like, it's just by law, we have to have all these terms. And her point was like, this is too complicated. Consumers cannot read American. She had the same problem with Facebook and all the other companies as well. It wasn't just us, but she wasn't comfortable with the way terms of service privacy policy of American companies are. And I was just explaining, this is how business is done in America. Otherwise, we just go out of business. So, and then after like 5 or 10 minutes, she literally slams the binder closed. She's like, I like you, but I don't like what is on your website. Why don't you put your face on the website and explain these things to consumers? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm building a company. I'm not building me, right?
Yeah.
And she said, this is actually very interesting wisdom. She said, this is before I actually started putting my face on cameras, like 4 or 5 years before that. And she said, look, there's this brand of soup in Germany. I can't remember the name right now. And the founder in TV commercials gets in the commercial and says, my name is blah, 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 and I endorse my soup. You know what I mean? Why don't you do the same thing? Because I trust you, but I don't trust the terms of service of your website. So there's not a person there. It feels like. And I was like, at the moment, I kind of brushed it off, and we laughed about it and all that. I'm like, but she was actually right, It's a lot easier. Like, when I explain things, I can explain them. But when it is a soulless website with a huge terms of service, explaining all the things in legalese and all that, so it's hard for people to trust. I think that is a huge entrepreneurship. I don't know if I'm going off a different track now, but
it makes sense, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier. About the airbrush picture, right? The airbrush picture might have shown trust back in the day because, hey, if you had the money to do that, you had to be a big company. And that kind of established trust where now people they want to see your face because we can. Back then you couldn't do that. So now it's like, that's interesting to look at it that way. That's super insightful.
I think it is actually what you said is exactly right. People back in the days, if you had a TV commercial, people thought, oh, it is a legit company because it has a TV commercial.
Right.
It is literally upside down now.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much does a TV commercial cost now, right?
Yeah, it's just nothing. I mean, it's just and anybody can do all sorts of airbrushed, like nice commercials. And people don't even see it. You know what I mean?
No, they're looking at their phone.
Yeah, exactly.
So your face, we're starting to see your face everywhere. Tell us a little bit about Dr. Alex University.
Yeah, it is an experiment I'm running. I kind of want to build a group of people that I kind of work with more closely and walk them. I'm trying to see if I can append, like change the business model, a university's business model. Can I build a better university? And the universities that are built around the way that it was actually back in the days, this is the best way to talk about it. So back in the days, like there were schools, like imagine you want to become a monk, right? There's a temple you go to and you get, if you can choose what you want to be, you want to learn whatever craft, you go somewhere, there's a person that knows it, and you go and kind of through osmosis, if you will, learn that craft from the person. I want to see if that is actually doable. In other words, can we go back to the previous model that we had versus this, again, systematic, rigid university framework? Can we go to the previous model and build kind of schools around experts, and you can pick and choose what you want to go. It's kind of like an experiment I'm running to see, one, do I like doing it? Two, does it make sense for other people to do it? And then if it makes sense, then I will scale and replicate. It's very much like how education was done back in the days. There was a mentor, or there was a master, or there was, a guru or somebody like that, and you chose, you wanted to learn something, you went and learned a craft directly from that person by being part of that community for a little bit. Does that make sense? So
Totally.
Yeah, it is
like the blacksmith, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He has a trainee under him, or what, the protege, or I don't know what they would call it. But
exactly.
That's awesome.
It seems like it's a lot better than going into blacksmith school, So it's like, yeah, do you guys agree? Do you guys?
Yeah, our school system right now, it's like, I talk to people that are in school. I mean, I went back to school a few years ago, but it's like, if my goal was actually to learn a trade so that at the end of that, I could just take off on the trade, it's not the case. Like, people are starting from square one after school. They just invested so many thousands of hours and stuff. And it doesn't make sense.
At all. I would even argue, it's just like, I can't think of many situations where our current school system is superior to the model that I just described to you. I just can't. Like, think of like, what profession is it? Even take something like becoming a doctor, right? The medical doctors go through like a few years of actually in classroom training, but the actual learning happens when they do their residency. So they're in the hospital. Like, you know what I'm talking about? So they actually have this model already. I can't really think of many situations where this model doesn't apply. And I don't know why we have the school system the way it is set up, where it is a completely like rigid framework of courses you have to take, and doesn't matter who you take it from. It's like, actually, that's mind-blowing to me. Like, you have a curriculum that is abstract from the professor. So you got to take this class and that class and that class, and different professors may do the teaching at any time. It's not about who you learn from. It's about what class. It's just mind blowing to me,
Yeah.
And it's a big business that's funded by the government, partially, right? So you can, there's a lot of goofy stuff going on there. Then the student loans, and we could get into a whole thing about that.
Yeah,
it
for
goes
a
back
$1 billion industry. I mean, come on, that's too much goofiness. That's a very
agreed.
It goes back to your point, though, what we were talking about at the very beginning, which is all these old businesses are they're still doing the same stuff, like dipping it in the poop, right? It's like all the same stuff. It's like, why? Like people are it's like mindlessly doing the same stuff these days, when it's like the tools that we have now are incredible. Yeah. And it's like they're still doing the same thing. Schools are still dipping it in poop.
That has become a thing now. You guys are not talking about it. You're still dipping in poop.
Oh, it's so good.
Awesome. Well, if you could give a piece of wisdom to somebody who wants to take that jump and be an entrepreneur, what would you tell them?
I would say take calculated risks. So here's the thing in life. You can lose if you're completely risk averse. I think we all agree on that. Without risk, you can never accomplish anything important in life. I can't think of an exception to that rule. So you got to be taking risk. However, if you're taking irresponsible risk, you will also lose. You know what I mean? So the key here is to take risk, but do it in a measured, calculated way. And it's like, it goes like, I don't know if you guys play poker. It's the same thing. So you got to bet an amount that actually makes sense depending on the hand that you're given. Right. So it's kind of like, and if you can get away with not doing the right bet a few times, but in the long term you lose. So it's the goal to me is like, a lot of times I talk to entrepreneurs and they're either too gun shy or they're fanatic risk taker. And I'm like, look, there is a middle ground.
Right. Yeah.
Take risks, but make sure if it doesn't work, you don't die. I mean, not physically, but you just don't destroy yourself over one shot. Another way to think about it is kind of like entrepreneurship is a little bit, like baseball, where you're swinging the bat, trying to hit a single or a home run, right? And you miss a lot of these throws. And the goal here is you have a batting average. Everybody has a batting average. The key is to not bet your life on one swing of the bat. So it's just, you gotta swing, but you can't bet all your life on one swing. So you gotta kind of like pace yourself. I see people that go into businesses, they mortgage their house or whatever on an unproven business model. And even though the market is telling them, and I've actually seen this, even though the market tells them, look, they don't want your product, so you don't have any sales, they kind of are pushing, smashing themselves into a wall and destroying themselves. I'm like, why? Like
this idealism and this ego, right?
Yeah, exactly. Ego is actually the reason. I don't know if you've read the book Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. It's ego is the enemy. So I'm like, look, step back, relax. For 1 week, don't do anything. And after that, you will come up with 10 more ideas. So it's like, you don't have to go all in into this one do 7 offsuit hand, It's like you're in poker. I don't know if you guys play poker, but offsuit is the worst hand you can have. It's pre-flop. So it's like,
don't bet.
Don't bet. Just don't.
It's the simplicity of the old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Exactly.
It's like so simple.
But you can put yourself in a basket. You can put all, if you don't have a lot of eggs and you're young, so you can recover, you can put your eggs in one basket if that basket has somewhat proven itself. Meaning, if you have pocket aces, you have proven the product sells and the market wants it, it's like pocket aces. If you're young, it's okay to bet on that heavy. But if it is deuce 7, Like, if that's your basket, by all means, don't put on your resume. It's important to know what is a basket, right? Is it a good?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Love it, man. Great words of wisdom.
It was fun talking to you guys.
Yeah, thanks for taking an hour out of your day to talk to just some two insurance dudes. We really appreciate it, man.
So awesome. Thank you, Alex. I just saying, this was so awesome, and we really appreciate your time. I thought it was going to be 20 or 25 minutes, and you went the distance. So thank you so much. This is awesome.
All right. Hopefully it was fun too. I went off path a few times.
Oh, I love it. Perfect. That's the fun stuff. That's the face part, right?
Yeah.
People are going to see this and be like, oh, man, Alex is a good dude. He's just a good dude.
It was good talking to you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah,
well, we'll stay in touch. Thank you so much, Dr. Alex.
All right. And thanks for having me. See you guys.
See ya.
Has finding, training, and retaining the best insurance producers ever been your struggle? It's why Agency Vault built the Sales Strengths Identifier to uncover if candidates and current staff have the specific sales skills to get you top results. Try it free at www.agencyvault.com/dudes. That's www.agencyvault.com/dudes and assess your lowest performer for free. Try it now.
Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.